Hey there, everybody. How's it going? I just have to get this off my chest while it's still fresh in my mind because usually I let these things go. It's the new year. I've made a point to avoid politics for the entire year because I don't want to talk about specific politicians ever again, really. And this includes any of them. But when I say politics, I'm talking about politicians, so to speak. This doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to sit back and not say anything as my country, continues to send my tax dollars into the military to go create wars in other countries in order to, well, the idea for American resources, which honestly just goes to the richest. We know this. Any war for oil is going to go to the corporations, not the people. It's going to the shareholders. And I feel like right now, I just have to say, trying not to offend anyone in particular, Americans are painfully stupid right now. I don't know how else to put it. I know it's not just Americans, but this is the country I live in. And as much as I'd love to believe that people do critical thinking and research on topics and try to understand the history of why we are where we are, I've found in my life that most people have no interest in finding the truth or what's actually going on. They have no interest in accuracy. And even if it's somebody you know well and you point out details that are factual, they will completely dispute them because it goes against the narrative of what they've been told. And when you push a little further, you find that usually they just heard it from, I'm going to say it, the news. And if you dare question what another person believes, they will say, you must have heard that on this station or that station. If it's the left, they'll say, oh, you must be a Fox News viewer. If they're on the right, they'll say, oh, you watch too much CNN. As a guy who watches neither of them, I've just been fascinated with my own government and the things that we've done in the past, the countries we've gone into. But even the little amount of research I have done into history compared to some people who spend their entire lives delving into these topics, I've come up with a very long list of US military and CIA incursions into other countries where we have gone in and said, oh, we have a dangerous regime here. We're going to take them out. We're going to remove their dictator. We're going to help free their people and get their resources back to their people. Now, you can look back at any country that we've claimed to do this in, including the Middle East or South America. And I've asked, people to just give me one example of America going in to a weaker country, dominating that country, and then having their people be better off than before we entered. Now, even if somebody can name one of these, the bigger question is, do we as Americans have the right to be world police? Do we have the right to go in and say, we want what you have and we're going to take it? And that's exactly what's happening in Venezuela. As I've been watching this for a couple of decades, and I heard 20 years ago that, we wanted Venezuela to cooperate. And as long as they were allowing American interests in, then, to run their oil, then we'd be fine. But as soon as they tried to nationalize their oil, then we, decided we're going to step in. This is nothing new. This has happened so many times. So I'm only going to set this on the back burner here because I have no interest in, trying to debate anyone about it. Like the way I see American imperialism is so clear to me. It's so clear that over the past, say, 5 years, I've sometimes felt like, okay, maybe I'm gaslighting myself on certain topics. Like maybe I'm just a little too, interested in this and I haven't looked at the bigger picture. I've tried to, say, well, maybe we do need the American military to go into these countries and to stop things that we don't understand in order to make the world safer. But you quickly learn growing up this is not the case. After 9/11, we were told this about bin Laden. Then people learned that bin Laden was trained by the CIA, the US government. That's kind of strange. And then you find out that maybe there's a little more to all of these stories. Then you get a little older, start learning about false flags, you start understanding, like, propaganda, corrupt government operations, right? And then you start to see through the illusion, the lie, that this is not about helping Americans by taking over resources from another country. This is about helping companies. And these companies have their offshore accounts in, guess what, other countries. You're not helping Americans, you're helping the bankers. We have $36 trillion in debt in this country, and we have the money and resources to send our military over to Venezuela, aircraft carriers and choppers. And, I understand my country, my military in this country, they are absolutely, out of control, right? They run their own operations. And I don't mean the actual personnel. I mean the leadership. And I don't even mean the generals. I mean the ones in charge. Unfortunately, there's guys like Pete Hegseth, who I wouldn't even name him by name, but this is like, he's one of the biggest pieces of garbage I've ever seen. And there are people who say he's a great military commander. People actually will look you in the eye and say, no, Pete Hegseth is a good leader. But nothing surprises me anymore. The people who actually go out and fight the battles, fight the wars, the ones who are on the front lines, they're a little more cautious about going off and into wars that are unnecessary. But then they will give you this line that, well, none of our soldiers died. I'm like, well, how many civilians died? And you know what? That does matter to me. It really does. And as much as I try to make my channel about the positive and ways to improve life, the only way for that to happen is for us to see corruption as it is, to see what's going on for what it is. And I feel if I don't speak against these things, then I'm just part of the problem, because we're all immersed in it. So it's guilt by association if you're not speaking up against the corruption. That's the way I see it. As painful as it is, because a video like this on my channel won't get much traction, because my viewers don't want to hear about my politics, and I get that. I respect that. I'm glad. There are other channels where that's all people want to see, and if you talk about, say, some spiritual shit, they wouldn't even watch it, right? Like, everybody's got their thing, and I would rather have my channel focused on the positive, focused on community, improving things, a better life, getting back to caring about each other. As hard as it seems to be sometimes. But then I see this kind of shit going on in government, and I think, okay, that's to be expected from my government, because just because it's more exposed now doesn't mean this hasn't been going on forever. Like, the things that the administration is doing, it's nothing new. I don't have really a hatred for Trump. It's not even, him in particular or any of his cronies. They're all part of the problem. They're just saying the quiet part out loud. Whenever I make a comparison with the Democrats, for example, people say, oh, well, like my brother in particular, he'll be like, oh, that's not a legitimate comparison, I'm like, well, it is, in my opinion. If you're corrupt and you're being dishonest with the people, you're part of the problem, period. I don't care what level you're at. We want brutal honesty and authenticity, the two things that we have lost. I made a video earlier talking about the original YouTube. I saw a rainbow outside, and I went out and watched the double rainbow video from back in 15 years, almost 16 years ago. It was January 8th, 2015, or 2005, when this guy, 2010, sorry, when Mountain Bear uploaded his video of the double rainbow. And now half the people out there, when they go out and they see a rainbow, they think of this double rainbow guy, right? And all the comments on there, he passed away a few years after that, so it's become kind of a memorial, but this was the original. It's not about YouTube here. This is just about people. People yearn for that connection with other people. And that's what the internet had promised us. But we chose to go the other direction. And it wasn't just our fault. We got sucked down the propaganda pipeline. We had companies like Facebook selling our data, sending us algorithms to promote anger and hatred and frustration. This is why I've got rid of all my social media except YouTube. And I'm on the verge of just getting rid of YouTube, because honestly, I love sharing my views, but I don't really care for watching anything on here anymore. There's a few channels I really like that I subscribe to, And so much of it has just been about what sponsorships can we get, or, a great YouTuber that I used to watch who comes on and makes a whole video talking about how his last video was demonetized because it was controversial. I don't care if your video was demonetized. If you want to talk about something, talk about it. It may not get promoted, but this is what it means to sell yourself on your own authenticity, right? Oh, we got to hit the algorithm. And I'm trying not to be cynical here, but look, you want to hit the algorithm? Fine, that's great. I would love to get a viral video and make millions of dollars, but guess what? It's not as important as sharing my authentic views with the world. I would rather get a couple hundred views of people who actually give a shit than thousands of views of people who just want to click because it just popped up and it's some Mr. Beast video or something, right? And I'm trying not to get too far off topic here, but we're living in an authentic age. We are so distracted with this mindless garbage that we don't even pay attention to what's really going on in front of us, the corruption, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because we need to distract ourselves. But I also think we need to pay attention and we need to listen to each other. See, what we're doing is we're buying into these corporate algorithms where the Mr. Beastification of the world, right? And a lot of these people are paid well to promote, say, military propaganda. If you're not familiar with Hollywood and all the propaganda, all the movies, Top Gun, all these military movies through the 70s, 80s, 90s, they were paid for in part by the US military on condition that they got favorable coverage. So if somebody wanted to make a movie about the military, they would be able to use military assets and military jeeps and things like that and bases to film on the condition that they said something nice about the US military, that they weren't harsh. And yes, the US government went through these scripts to make sure that everything was nice and clean. So this means that I was out working a job and some of my tax dollars were going to pay for this military filming thing, right? My early jobs, right? So the movies I was watching, I was paying to have them made by paying into the military, right? But on top of that, we pay for the wasted time, we pay for the resources, we pay for the ignorance. Honestly, I feel like there's so much to cover to even get into propaganda. I'm sure that all of you are familiar with MK Ultra, and if you're not, then that would be a great starting point. Like, nothing I've said really would make any sense to anybody if they don't understand past US government corruption, including projects like MK Ultra, Project Blue Book, Blue Beam with the UFO bullshit. A lot of it was just completely set up to confuse the public, taking the time to put out fake stories in order to complicate and confuse issues. And all the while telling people it was for the Cold War, we just need to fool Russia. And then we find out that Russia actually didn't want to fight with us from the beginning. We made the assumption they had a whole bunch of nukes, and we created this arsenal before we even did an analysis on what they really had, and found out we thought they had like hundreds of these, launchable ICBMs, found out they only had like a couple or a few. And then Russia found out we'd been building a bunch, and you know how the game goes. It's a big game, and in that game, it's a big club. And as George Carlin says, it's a big club and you ain't in it, and you'll never be in it. So what does it mean? What's my point? I'm rambling on about corruption, politics. Discussions like this generally go nowhere. You can only complain so much about shit that's going on. You can hope that guys like maybe Joe Rogan and some of these, podcasters and YouTubers might expose some of this corruption. And they start to. And then that they get a knock at the door. They get an email. They get a visit from somebody who says, at the very least, tone the shit down. And they comply. And if they say, hey, we'll keep your bank account full if you comply even more, of course they will. It's a sellout world, my friends. I told myself when I was young, one thing I will never do is sell out. I would never sit and lie to people for $1. I wouldn't do it for $1 billion because I want my conscience clear. I've made mistakes. I've been wrong about things. I've got frustrated and flustered, maybe said things I didn't mean or got misunderstood, but I have never sat down and lied to somebody's face for money or for any other reason, because honesty is that important to me. And so when I see leadership lying to a camera to millions of people, and I think people are okay with this, I've never been all right with that. So back to stage one, this is what's happening right now in Venezuela. I heard somebody debating the other day with me saying that this was all about drugs and we have to stop the fentanyl from coming into the country. So I looked up statistics, did the research on it, and found out Venezuela, at the very most, maybe 1% of fentanyl comes in from Venezuela, if that. So it's not fentanyl. They distribute a lot of cocaine. I found out we'd blown up like 36 speedboats, okay, small boats. 36 of them, I believe. Like, when it was one or two, people were like, what the fuck's going on? 36. And not one of those boats could have reached the continental US or would have. Like, if you see a boat that's leaving Venezuelan, the coast, the idea that you can say, oh no, they're a threat to the US public is ridiculous. But most of them were full of cocaine going to Europe at worst, okay? And I'll tell you, a lot of the Europeans are going to be pissed if they don't get their blow. Because it's not just the junkies who use it, it's the fucking high-end executives who love their coke. So let's just be honest here, it's not about drugs. Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserves on the planet of heavy crude. That's just a fact. They also sell about 17% of it to the US, or did, but they sell over half of it to China. And right now, we're afraid of China overtaking us with AI and infrastructure. So the US is basically, I feel like the United States, my country, is like a guy drowning with one hand still above water, just grasping. And I don't mean this for the people. I mean this for the federal government. They're losing it. They're completely losing ground. And unfortunately, the people fall into that. And in the end, during the decline of an empire, people get panicked and they start taking sides. And I guess my whole thing is, whenever I have an opinion about something and I'm really strong on one side, people will, when they get frustrated, flustered about my opinion, they'll often say something like, you just believe this, or you're just a Democrat, forgetting that that's not an excuse that works with everybody, because I'm not. I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a centrist, I'm a human being. I look at every situation and tend to lean one direction or another. And yes, I lean left because as an educated human being, I see that empathy and caring about other people, taking care of the weak is the best way to protect a nation. Like, playing tough love can be useful sometimes, but going out and, invading other countries, when you have your military bases in over 150 countries, and I think we have over 800 known military bases across the world in other places. And folks would say, we need that for security. I say, well, do we? Really? Or could we just work confidently with other people to be mature, respectable adults, keep our weapons and our toys to ourselves? If somebody else has a little more resources than we do, then we need to make a deal. And if the deal's not good enough, we just kind of take what we want. And Venezuela was trying to make a deal. Maduro had come out 3 days before saying he wanted to make a deal. So what did we do instead? Went down and kidnapped him, bombed him, sent in helicopters, Chinooks and airplanes. I believe it was attacked from 20 different US bases. I mean, it's Venezuela. You think they're going to fight back? Really? Come on. A show of force on Venezuela. Give me a break. The US could attack any South American country and they'd probably just be like, please don't, because they have the weaponry, but they know they'll lose. And so anyway, then kidnapping the president, bringing him back to the US in this big show. Let me just tell you this. The fact that all of this has been televised should tell you a lot about what's going on. And I just hope even one American out there watching this, maybe somebody who believes the bullshit, can just take a moment to really ask yourself, do I really believe that the US needs to go into this country? Do I really support this? Or am I just going along with the narrative because that's what the media says, or that's what the president says, or some other official? Because if you still trust officials, you're serving yourself horribly and you're selling yourself short. These are people who have a vested interest in lying to you. And I know we want to trust people, but we have to trust each other again. Because you're much more likely to trust your neighbor who has a different political view. You're much more likely to get them to work with you than you are to get a political official that is on your side to work with you. I guarantee you that right now. Community is where it's at. They've been trying to destroy communities for so long that people forget it. We even have them. And so, yeah, conspiracy hour over. I think I got that off my chest. I'll talk to you all next time. And remember, you don't have to get emotionally invested. You can be aware of what's going on. You can see the corruption without letting it affect you directly. And but at some point, if you're paying attention, it's going to hit you. It's going to hit home. You're going to say, what the fuck? We could be doing so much better, you know? Just remember, when they say it's for America, they mean it's for the corporations. There's no America left except the people. When they try to say money has something to do with Americans, don't believe them. The money that you make, that you earn, is your money. And you should be more concerned with how much tax you're paying. You know, just like the sin tax. I'll get into that one on a different one, but I think I've made my point. Anyway, remember to stay cool, stay calm, stay collected. Much love to you all. And yeah, we'll see where we go to war next. But I've seen this story play out. This whole free the people, this leader was a threat and a terrorist. If you still believe that shit, you're part of the problem. It's time to move past this and say, let's look at history and see when this has ever been the case, when we have ever once deposed a leader and improved the lot of life for the people there. Anyway, I'm out. I'll see you next time.